Listen, and on that, which is a really good time to introduce the Taxpayers Union primary representative, founder of, chief executive, I think he is now, Jordan Williams. Jordan, William, welcome to the show. You've arrived at a good time because we were just talking about the undermining of the democratic and political will of this government by bureaucrats determined to not recognise that there was a change in government at the last election. That's for MFAT and MFE and climate change policy, but I think you're suggesting that at a wider level, they might still be in charge of the beast, particularly when it comes to finance. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I think that the government has certainly run into the blob. We have a much both more politicised but actually less capable public service compared to a generation or two ago. And I don't just think it's New Zealand, it's across the Western world. A lot of your best and brightest went into the public sector, which is just not occurring anymore. I think it's really saddened me. 15 years ago, when I first became involved in public affairs, there was a real want by the young finance and economists that would come through groups like the Taxpayers Union to go and work, going to want to work for the Reserve Bank or Treasury. That's no longer the case. It is not seen as the intellectual powerhouse that it used to be. And I think that is illustrative of a greater problem across the public sector. And certainly there's others that have made the similar sort of commentary about Westminster.
Yeah, no, well, listen, I've no doubt there's a lack of intellect. But your argument, though, is that despite the government coming in with a mandate, particularly to trim the public sector, nothing's really happening. We've still got the same number of bureaucrats. Is that right? The same number of bureaucrats
No,
you
we've got
had?
more. No, no, no,
Oh
no,
dear
no, no,
Lord.
no, no, no. We've got more. No, we've got more. So, I mean, and this is and I'm reluctant to say it, but and this is actually really on Nicola Willis. The government is in a real pickle. Christopher Luxon has to look voters in the eye in just over a year and ask them the question, do you feel better off than you did 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And right now, the polling is showing very clearly the answer is a resounding no. Nicola Willis has prided herself in not wanting to make deep cuts to public expenditure because her argument is she wants to get re-elected. Well, she's actually going to achieve neither. You know, it is a real wasted opportunity, the last two budgets. She has had the political cost and the perception that she's made deep cuts, but she's being a bit tricky because when she talks about cuts in the media, all she's done is reallocated, cut here and reallocated there. The total has actually gone up. That is not a cut. You know, if my board tell me, Jordan, you know, times are tough, you need to cut back, and I simply cut back on staff and, I don't know, put more money into advertising, that's not a cut. That is not a cut. And so what we have ended up with is we're 2 years into a centre-right government that was elected. I mean, when else in our lifetime, Michael, do you get your two MMP support parties elected on the basis of cuts to government spending? We've got, number one, we've got more bureaucrats employed in Wellington right now than when Labor left office. That is a failure. Number two, government as a proportion of the economy is larger than when Labor left office. And it's still going to be larger for at least even on Nicola Willis talks about how we're cutting back, but all they're doing is growing it slower over the in future budgets, which is exactly how Grant Robertson managed to massage the books. Is that he'd say, we're spending now, you know, all this new spending, but don't worry, we you know, the fiscal envelope is smaller next year and the following year. Nicola Willis is using the identical trick, and the borrowing. Well, sorry. It's not the borrowing's going up. The rate of new borrowing is higher than when Labor left office. It's higher now than any time except the very depths of COVID.
Why?
So
I don't know about... Yeah, but the question I've got is, you're absolutely right. They had a mandate. They said they were going to do it. Nobody would have given a flying except Wellington, who are hostile to the government anyhow, why have they reneged, it appears, upon the promises made and upon the commitments that
Well,
they
that's
took
really
for
a
the last
question
election?
for Nicola Willis. I mean,
But what do you think?
she I think it's the leadership is from the top. Here, it is not. It's not like the sort of games being played by DIA and Three Waters and rates capping in relation to what I think are officials trying to undermine the minister. This is quite different. Here, Treasury are sounding the alarm. Report
Yeah,
after
yeah,
report
yeah,
demonstrates we are on
yeah. Listen, just on that rates capping, can I ask you? You've just said that's what I'm talking about to do. Oh, wait on. Has he just fallen off, has he? Oh, okay. It's the second person, Josh. We might have an
and just
issue
look at
this
what
morning. No, no,
you know.
You're back. You're back, Jordan. Good. I can hear you.
Oh, sorry. That'll
You're
be
back. I
my
can hear you.
that'll be it. Great. If you, work by Michael Riddell would suggest that New Zealand has the largest structural deficit as a percentage of GDP than any Western country. You know that
Okay.
the idea that Nicola Willis has got the books back into shape is simply not true, and the public need to understand how bad it is in order for them to frankly demand before it's too late that we get the books back into shape.
How the argument? The only thing that I can think of is that Nicola Willis has herself accepted that the economy is in a funk, that she doesn't want to add further pressure upon it by um, retrenching, if you like. So she's sort of taken the Keynesian view that when there's a downturn in the economy, if anything, you don't retrench, you expand. Do you see that thought
Totally agree.
process at work?
Everyone is saying we need deeper cuts to the OCR, the cost of borrowing. But the only reason the Reserve Bank is not going harder and faster is that inflation is in the
Yeah, in the
top half
3%
of
carry. Yeah,
that target band.
yeah.
And that the reason for that is that government is larger and that government spending right now is the largest anchor on our economy. And I'm sorry, but Nicola Willis speaks as if she's just was elected last week. She's had two budgets and she has grown expenditure. Now she said she took a quite, and the reason I don't mind being a little bit more direct today is that she took quite an unfair swipe at the Taxpayers Union and our chair Ruth Richardson, saying that they want us to cut spending to hospitals and schools, which is just nonsense on stilts. The fact that we have a centre-right Minister of Finance using left-wing caricature language against organisations like the Taxpayers Union that are doing no more than what her own officials are doing, which is, Minister, the path we're on is unsustainable. You need to grab the issue and deal with it, frankly, in the same way as Erica Stanford has around NCEA. Tinkering is not enough. We arguably have the worst, well, as I say, on IMF data, we have the largest structural fiscal deficit in the world. Our bond yields are spiking. Why do you think the Nicola Willis came back from London pontificating about how she'd met with a ratings agency and everything's okay? She's doing that because markets are concerned. My economist tells me we are now paying the second highest 10-year bond rate in the Western world, second only to the United Kingdom. You don't need to look hard at the United Kingdom to see the absolute basket case that their public finances are in. Guess what? The markets are saying we are next in line. We are that risky. And Nicola denying that there's a problem is not going to fix it.
Well, and part of your campaign also, and part of the inflationary pressure you've talked about, for example, is also local government rates, which you've highlighted, I think, expertly, in actual fact, in a campaign you've been running now for quite some time, on the extraordinary rate on the appetite of local councils for ratepayers' monies. And you've been running, I thought, relatively successfully, a rates capping campaign that you thought that the government had signed up for, which would reduce that burden throughout the country. But in the last week or so, I've been reading what you've had to say, and you were just talking about bureaucrats undermining government policy and government ministers, but that the rates capping legislation that's intended is in trouble. Is that your understanding?